Welcome to our channel. Before we get started, please consider liking and subscribing so we can bring more stories like this to you.
Harmony Heights, a promise broken. The mural, once a vibrant testament to unity, its figures bursting with sunrise hues, now flaked like sunburnt skin. Dust-laden sunbeams sliced through the air, highlighting the anemic yellows and blues. A recent addition, a roughly sprayed D. Coiled by a serpent, marred the brickwork below, an ugly brand on the Harmony Heights Community Center's facade. Maria Rodriguez sighed, the sound lost to the persistent thud of a basketball against the court's fractured surface. Youngsters, either unaware or simply inured, pressed on with their game, a kinetic outburst against the gathering gloom. A decade prior, Harmony Heights had earned its name. Now, genuine concord was a whisper, a fragile tune drowned out by an ever-present discord. Maria shouldered open the center's weighty oak door, the scent of stale coffee and aged wax a familiar, if uninspiring, embrace. She'd stewarded this haven, this community's nucleus, for 15 years. The scaling paint mirrored the building's exterior. Decay. Plywood patched a shattered window, a stark symbol of the center's dwindling resources and the escalating brazenness of its antagonists. Buenos dias, Dona Maria, a youthful voice chimed. Carlos, all awkward angles and a hesitant smile. Meticulously tidied books on a shelf. He was a regular, seeking the quiet refuge the center provided. Buenos dias, Carlos, Maria responded, her voice a gentle balm. Ready for the reading circle this afternoon? Carlos nodded, anticipation kindling in his eyes. Yes, Dona Maria. I finished the chapter you assigned. Maria smiled. These small triumphs, these threads of connection, fueled her resolve, embers defying the encroaching shadows. She made her way to the cramped office, its walls a gallery of happy faces, graduations, artwork, community gatherings. Each image reinforced the promise Harmony Heights once embodied, a promise she refused to relinquish. Settling into her threadbare desk chair, she felt a rebellious spring jab her through the worn fabric. A tower of past-due invoices loomed on the desktop. City Council had enacted drastic funding cuts the previous year, citing budgetary pressures. Maria knew the real reason. Harmony Heights was evolving into an inconvenience, better left to wither. A knock interrupted her bleak thoughts. Miguel, one of the older teens, stood anxiously in the doorway, his shoulders slumped, eyes averted. Dona Maria, he mumbled, shuffling his feet. Can I talk to you for a moment? Maria beckoned him inside. She'd watched Miguel grow up, a bright, lively boy with a passion for drawing. Lately, however, he seemed burdened by premature worries. What troubles you, Miguel? She inquired softly. He hesitated, his gaze flitting around the room. It's about the disciples, he whispered at last, the gang's name barely audible. Maria's heart plummeted. The disciples, the gang steadily choking Harmony Heights, preying on vulnerabilities, ensnaring the lost. They want me to join. Miguel continued, his voice cracking with emotion. They say I can earn a lot, I can help my family. Maria's blood chilled. She understood the lure. The mirage of effortless money, of belonging, was a potent enchantment for these vulnerable kids. Miguel, she countered, her tone firm yet nurturing, that is not the way forward. That path leads only to heartache and ruin. You are capable of so much more. You are too intelligent for that. He met her gaze, his eyes mirroring a mix of dread and desperation. But what other options do I have, Dona Maria? My father lost his job. My mother works double shifts constantly. We're desperate for money. Maria reached across the desk, taking his hand. His palm was rough, toughened by labor. We will find a way, Miguel, she assured him, her voice resonating with conviction. We always do. We'll speak with Mr. Garcia at the bakery. Perhaps he needs assistance. I will also talk to your mother. We'll work it out together. He regarded her, a glimmer of hope flickering in his eyes. You really think so, Dona Maria? I know so, she affirmed, squeezing his hand reassuringly. As Miguel departed, Maria felt a renewed surge of determination. She would not permit the disciples to claim another of her children. She would not let them extinguish the hope that still flickered within Harmony Heights. Yet, as she glanced at the mounting bills, the peeling paint, and the boarded-up window, an unsettling premonition lingered. She was fighting a losing battle. Harmony Heights' promise was dimming, and time was running out. To salvage it. Later that evening, as Maria locked the center's doors, she spotted a small, folded note tucked underneath. Picking it up, her pulse quickened. Unfolding it, she deciphered a single word scrawled in clumsy letters, respect. A shiver raced down her spine. It wasn't a direct threat. Not explicitly, however. It was a warning, a veiled reminder that the disciples were watching, fully aware. Maria crumpled the paper, her knuckles straining. She felt weary. She felt afraid. Yet, she was not defeated. Not yet. She would persevere, for Miguel, for Carlos, For all the children of Harmony Heights, even if she had to stand alone, the disciples reign. The sun, a relentless hammer, pounded Figueroa Street, turning the asphalt to shimmering tar and the air to a suffocating blanket. Maria, forehead slick with sweat, attacked the grime clinging to her bakery window, the sugary perfume of baking bread a meager counterpoint to the acrimony curdling in her gut. The disciples had returned. 3 figures sauntered into view, their shadows, elongated by the brutal glare, preceding them like harbingers. The alpha was unmistakable. Viper, shaved skull, tapestry of ink crawling his neck. Maria knew the face from hastily printed warnings tacked to lampposts and the hushed terror that vibrated through the community. He halted before her shop. His 2 acolytes arrayed on either side like carrion birds. The first, a scrawny youth whose perpetual smirk telegraphed malice, expectorated on the already stained concrete. The other, a silent behemoth, arms like tree trunks, methodically popped his knuckles. Viper's gaze, cold and sharp as obsidian shards, impaled Maria. "Business booming, little grandmother?" he rumbled, his voice a jagged rasp that scraped against her bones. Maria manufactured a smile, the cleaning rag trembling in her grip. "Yes, thank God. We're managing. Managing enough to spread the wealth, eh?" He closed the distance, crowding her. The reek of stale beer and cheaper tobacco clung to him like a second skin. Protection for ongoing success. Maria understood that IT signified less flour, leaner meals for her family. A future further diminished. IT meant feeding the insatiable hunger of a beast consuming their home, bite by bite. But refusal brought its own horrors. Shattered glass, spray-painted threats, escalation. "How much are you demanding?" The words escaped, barely audible. Viper's grin flashed, a glint of gold amidst decay. 500 a week, payable tomorrow. Maria's breath hitched. Extortion, plain and simple, an objection formed. But the predatory glint in Viper's eyes choked it down. He thrived on her fear, reveled in his dominance. "We expect payment," Viper announced, pivoting to leave. "Don't disappoint." Maria watched them amble across the street, targeting Mr. Lee's struggling convenience store. She saw him emerge, his face a mask of weary apprehension. She knew the script. The disciples were tightening their stranglehold, slowly suffocating the neighborhood. Later, as the bruised sky bled into night, 15-year-old Mateo rushed home from basketball practice, eyes fixed on the ground, attempting to blend into the twilight. He had learned to navigate his own streets like a phantom, unseen and unheard, but luck betrayed him. 2 younger disciples, mirroring Viper's crew and menace, materialized in his path. A girl, face masked by a bandana, and a lanky boy sporting a freshly shaved head. "Yo, kid," the girl snarled, her voice dripping with disdain. "You got anything for us?" Mateo shook his head, clutching the basketball like a lifeline. "I don't have anything." The shaved-headed boy advanced, eyes like chips of flint. "Don't play coy that everyone's carrying." He snapped open a switchblade, the click a stark punctuation mark in the gathering dusk. Mateo gulped. He knew what prize they sought. His new basketball shoes, a hard-won victory after months of saved allowance. "I need them for practice," he stammered, his voice cracking with desperation. The girl's laughter echoed, a brittle, ugly sound. "Practice? Think you're destined for the NBA? Get real, you're existing in our territory now." The boy lunged, seizing Mateo's wrist. A cry tore from Mateo's throat as he fought to retain possession of his shoes, thrashing and kicking against their superior strength. The girl ripped off one shoe, then the other. Defeat washed over Mateo as they vanished into the encroaching darkness. His prized possessions clutched like trophies. He stood there, barefoot on the broken asphalt, the sunset painting long, desolate streaks around him. The oppressive weight of the disciples' dominion settled on his young frame. This wasn't just about footwear. It was about subjugation, about instilling fear, about a community inching closer to collapse. A stranger arrives. Harmony Heights Community Center was less impressive than Maria had painted it. A squat structure sandwiched between a liquor store sporting iron bars and a weed-choked empty lot. The parking lot's cracked asphalt hosted whirling dust devils as Jason's motorcycle cut through the air, screeching to a halt. The engine died, its abrupt silence amplifying the distant city siren's mournful cry. Maria threw open the double doors, her face radiant with a genuine smile. "Jason, you came." A hug enveloped him, carrying the faint scent of lavender overlaid with something akin to desperation. He returned the embrace, finding a momentary harbor in this unfamiliar setting. "Wouldn't have missed it," he replied, stepping back to assess her. She was noticeably thinner, her eyes holding a world weariness unseen before. "Everything all right, Maria?" She plastered on a brighter expression. "Couldn't be better. Come on in, I want you to meet some of the kids." Inside, the center was a riot of color. Child-created murals, posters promoting after-school activities, and artwork affixed to every conceivable surface. The aroma of crayons mingled with the musty tang of old coffee. In one corner, a small group was absorbed in the intricate dance of a jigsaw puzzle. As Maria gave him a tour, detailing the constant struggle to keep the place running, a disturbance erupted outside. Raised voices laced with sharp, barking laughter. Maria's face clouded over. "Just a sec," she said, her voice tight. She rushed to the window, peering out with concern. Jason followed, his hand instinctively finding the small of her back. 3 figures in dark hoodies and bandanas had cornered a boy no older than 10. One yanked his backpack, spilling its contents onto the ground in a chaotic mess. Textbooks, pencils, and a half-eaten sandwich landed on the pavement. The boy shrank in on himself, silent sobs racking his frame. "The disciples," Maria breathed, her voice barely audible. "They're always doing this, extorting, scaring the kids." Jason's jaw hardened. He recognized the glint in their eyes, the callous arrogance of predators. He'd seen that look far too often. "Be right back," he stated, his voice a low rumble. Maria clutched his arm. "Jason, please. It's not worth it. They're dangerous." He gently freed himself. "Someone has to take a stand, Maria." He crossed the threshold, the asphalt whispering under his boots. The disciples noticed him instantly, their laughter choked off. The one clutching the backpack tossed it aside. "What's it to you, old-timer?" the largest sneered, advancing. A crude serpent tattoo coiled around his bulging bicep. "Leave him alone," Jason stated, his voice even but resolute. "Or what?" The tattooed man cracked his knuckles menacingly. "Gonna run to mommy?" His companions tittered. Jason remained unflinching, his gaze locked on the tattooed man. "Pick up his things and get out of here." The man spat, a dark globule landing on the ground. "You asking for trouble, Pops?" He lunged, throwing a clumsy punch. Jason flowed to the side, evading the blow with practiced ease. He seized the man's wrist, twisting with controlled force. A sharp cry burst from the man's lips as he stumbled back. Jason released him, shoving him back toward his crew. "I'm only going to say it once," Jason said, his voice now edged with cold steel. "Leave him alone." The 3 exchanged uneasy glances. This hadn't gone according to plan. They hastily gathered the boy's belongings, stuffing them roughly into his pack. Casting a final, venomous glare, they vanished into the shadows of the alley. Jason watched them retreat, then turned to the boy, still trembling. He knelt, offering a reassuring nod. "You all right, kid?" The boy nodded, his eyes glistening with gratitude. "Thank you," he mumbled. As Jason assisted the boy in gathering the last of his scattered pencils, a deep, guttural growl resonated from the alley's mouth. A figure emerged from the murk, taller and more imposing than the others. His face remained hidden in the shade of his hood, but the frigid, calculating stare that bored through the gloom was unmistakable. "Viper." He uttered no words. He simply fixed Jason with his gaze, a burning intensity that sent a shiver creeping down Jason's spine. A silent promise of vengeance hung palpably in the air. Then, with the barest inclination of his head, he melted back into the darkness, lines drawn in the sand. "This used to be a good place, Jason," Maria said, her voice barely a whisper against the hum of the late afternoon traffic creeping along the boulevard a block away. They were sitting on the porch of the Harmony Heights Community Center, the paint peeling on the railings a testament to the neglect she was fighting against. The sun cast long shadows, painting the small garden she'd cultivated with a golden hue. "What happened?" Jason asked, his gaze sweeping the basketball court across the street, empty save for a stray plastic bag tumbling in the wind. Maria sighed, a sound heavy with resignation. "Slow erosion." The disciples. They started small. Petty theft, graffiti. Then it escalated. They realized they could control people through fear. "The police, they respond, but it's always after the fact. They aren't here to prevent it." She picked at a loose thread on her worn jeans. "They prey on the vulnerable, the elderly, single mothers, kids with no other options." She gestured towards the community center with a sweep of her hand. "This place, it's a refuge. We offer after-school programs, job training, ESL classes. trying to give these kids a chance, a reason to choose something other than the streets. Her eyes, usually bright with optimism, were clouded with worry. We were making progress, slowly but progress nonetheless, now. Jason followed her gaze towards a group of teenagers kicking a soccer ball in the far corner of the park. Their laughter echoed in the relative quiet. They seem okay. They are for now, but the disciples are always recruiting, promising them power, belonging. They dangle the illusion of a better life. She paused, her expression hardening. I won't let them have these kids, not without a fight. Jason leaned back, the wooden slats of the porch digging slightly into his back. What about their families? Can't they do anything? Maria shook her head. Many are scared. Some are working 2-3 jobs just to make ends meet. They don't have the time or the resources to fight back. And some, her voice trailed off, some are already under the disciples' control, family members involved. The web is deep, Jason, very deep. He watched her, admiring her unwavering commitment. You're doing good work, Maria. Don't let them break you. A sudden roar ripped through the air, shattering the fragile peace. A black SUV screeched to a halt in front of the community center, its engines still revving. 4 figures leaped out, faces obscured by bandanas, wielding spray paint cans like weapons. The disciples, Maria breathed, her voice laced with fear. The figures moved with practiced efficiency, defacing the freshly painted mural that adorned the side of the building. The vibrant colors, depicting scenes of community and hope, were quickly obliterated beneath a crude black tag, Viper's Crew. A stylized serpent coiled around the letters, its fangs bared. Jason surged to his feet, his fists clenched. I'm going to stop them. Maria grabbed his arm. No, Jason, it's what they want to provoke you. As if on cue, one of the figures turned towards them, pointing a spray can directly at Jason. He raised the can and sprayed a single, menacing word across the front door, war. Then, with a final, defiant yell, the disciples piled back into the SUV and sped away, leaving behind a scene of devastation and a chilling message. Maria stared at the defaced building, her face pale. They're escalating. This isn't just about territory anymore. It's personal. She looked at Jason, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. They know you're here. They're challenging you. She touched the graffitied war message. They're challenging us all. Taking a stand. Jason watched Maria Rodriguez scrub furiously at graffiti on the community center wall, the rhythmic scrape of her brush a stark contrast to the silence that had fallen over Harmony Heights. The vibrant murals the kids had painted, now marred by the Serpent King's insignia, felt like a personal insult. Maria, usually radiating warmth, had a grim set to her jaw. They're testing us, aren't they? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Maria didn't stop scrubbing. Testing. They're choking us. They want us gone. She finally stopped, throwing the brush into a bucket with a clatter. I can't promise anyone's safety anymore, Jason. I understand if you want to leave. He straightened, the thought of leaving twisting in his gut. He thought of the fear in the eyes of the children, the resignation in the faces of the elders. This wasn't just about territory, it was about hope. I'm not going anywhere, Maria. Her eyes widened, a flicker of hope igniting in their depths. You're staying. Someone needs to show them that they can't just roll over us. Jason ran a hand through his hair, a plan forming. But we can't do it alone. We need to teach these kids to defend themselves. The next few days were a whirlwind. Jason, with Maria's help, started recruiting. It wasn't easy. Fear was a powerful deterrent, but slowly a small group began to coalesce, kids like Rosa, quick and agile, Miguel, with surprising strength. And then there was Darius DJ Jackson. DJ was all sharp edges and defiance. He slouched in the back during the first training session, a cynical smirk playing on his lips. He was skinny, almost wiry, but moved with a coiled energy. He wore a faded hoodie pulled low, obscuring his face, headphones around his neck, and his fingers tapped out a silent rhythm on his knee. So, Mr. Ex-military hero thinks he can teach us to fight off the kings? DJ drawled, his voice laced with sarcasm. You think a couple of punches and kicks are gonna scare them? Jason ignored the bait. Self-defense is about more than just fighting, DJ. It's about awareness, strategy, knowing your weaknesses and using your strengths. He demonstrated a simple block, then a swift counterattack. It's about not being a victim. DJ scoffed, but Jason noticed he was watching intently. The training was grueling. Jason pushed them hard, drilling them in basic strikes, blocks, and evasive maneuvers. He emphasized situational awareness, teaching them to identify potential threats and escape routes. Maria provided first aid training and talked about conflict resolution, stressing the importance of de-escalation whenever possible. One afternoon, during a break, DJ was messing with a beat on his laptop, the rhythmic thumping filling the community center. Jason watched him, intrigued. You're good, he said. DJ shrugged, instantly wary. Whatever. No, seriously, you have a gift. Music can be a powerful weapon too. You know. It can unite people, inspire them. DJ's eyes flickered, a hint of vulnerability momentarily breaking through his tough exterior. Don't try to psychoanalyze me, old man. He quickly retreated behind his wall of sarcasm, but over the next few weeks, DJ started to open up, a little at a time. Jason learned that his father was gone, his mother worked double shifts, and he spent most of his time alone. Pouring his emotions into his music. He was fiercely protective of his younger sister, Lily. It was clear DJ was hurting, but he hid it well, masking his insecurities with bravado. One evening, after a particularly tough session, DJ stayed behind, fiddling with his headphones. Look, he mumbled, not meeting Jason's eyes. I appreciate what you're doing, for Lily mostly. Jason nodded. Then help me teach these kids. You have a different perspective, a different skill set. We need that. DJ hesitated, then a slow grin spread across his face. All right, old man. Let's see if we can't give these kings a little something to dance to. From that moment on, DJ became an integral part of the team. He taught the others how to use technology to their advantage, setting up a simple surveillance system with repurposed smartphones and creating a communication network using encrypted messaging apps. He even started incorporating music into the training sessions, using it to regulate their breathing and focus their energy. The community center, once a symbol of vulnerability, was slowly transforming into a fortress of resistance. The fight had just begun, but for the first time in a long time, Harmony Heights had a fighting chance. Guerrilla warfare. The shattered glass crunched under Jason's boots. The message was clear, a brick through the window of Mrs. Rodriguez's bakery, a calling card from the Vipers. Fear coiled in the bellies of the gathered youth, a tangible thing. They want us to back down, Maria whispered, her voice trembling. Jason met her gaze, his own unwavering. Then we give them a reason to regret it. He turned to Darius, who was fiddling with his phone, headphones slung around his neck. DJ, what have you got? Darius looked up, his usual sarcastic smirk playing on his lips. Surveillance. The Vipers are hitting up the liquor store on Crenshaw tonight. Routine protection racket, apparently. Good, Jason said, a plan already forming. We're going to make them think twice about routine. That night, the air crackled with a nervous energy. Jason led the group, a dozen strong, through the back alleys and shadowed streets. He pointed to the rooftops, the overflowing dumpsters, the fire escapes. This is our territory, he said, his voice low but firm. We know it better than they ever will. We use that to our advantage. He demonstrated how to scale a brick wall using the staggered drain pipes, how to move silently across corrugated iron, how to disappear into the darkness. The liquor store was brightly lit, a beacon in the gloom. Two Vipers, hulking figures with the gang's insignia tattooed on their necks, stood guard outside. Jason signaled. The plan was simple but effective. Maria, nimble and quick, disabled the security camera with a well-aimed rock. Carlos, a shy kid with an unexpected talent for engineering, rigged a string of firecrackers to a trash can lid, creating a deafening explosion a block away. The Vipers, startled, turned their attention towards the noise. That was the signal. DJ, using a hacked police scanner app on his phone, blasted static through a nearby speaker hidden inside a delivery truck. The screeching sound, amplified and distorted, disoriented the gang members. Simultaneously, buckets of water, collected from rooftops earlier that day, rained down on the Vipers from above, courtesy of Mateo and Sofia. The water wasn't just water. It was mixed with chili powder, borrowed from Mrs. Rodriguez's bakery, turning into a blinding, burning onslaught. The Vipers, caught completely off guard, stumbled and swore, their vision obscured, their skin stinging. Jason and the others descended, not to fight, but to harass, throwing eggs filled with paint, releasing a swarm of angry wasps from a nest carefully relocated earlier, and generally creating chaos and confusion. DJ recorded everything on his phone. The footage shaky but undeniably humiliating for the Vipers. Within minutes, the Vipers retreated, defeated and enraged, leaving behind a scene of complete pandemonium. Back at the abandoned community center, the youth were buzzing with adrenaline, their fear replaced by a sense of accomplishment. Even Darius allowed a genuine smile to break through his cynical facade. Not bad, he admitted, scrolling through the video footage. Viral material, for sure. Jason knew this was just the beginning. The Vipers wouldn't take this lying down. They would retaliate, and their response would be brutal. This wasn't a victory, he said, his voice sobering the mood. It was a message that we won't be intimidated. But they'll be back. We need to be ready. He looked around at the faces of the youth, their eyes shining with a newfound determination. He saw fear, yes, but he also saw hope, and in Darius's eyes, a flicker of something else. A grudging respect, perhaps even a hint of trust. The battle had been joined, the guerrilla war had begun, and the streets of Los Angeles were about to become a very different kind of battlefield, turning the tide. The stale scent of fryer oil clung to everything inside Manny's burgers. DJ wrinkled his nose, leaning against the sticky counter. So, Manny, you gonna keep polishing that spatula? Or you gonna tell us what you saw last Tuesday? Manny, a man whose bulk strained the seams of his stained apron, wrung his hands. I didn't see anything. His voice trembled, barely audible above the sizzle of the grill. Sure you did, Jason said, his voice low and reassuring. He placed a hand, heavy but gentle, on the counter. Just tell us what you saw outside, Manny. And no one's gonna hurt you, DJ scoffed, though he kept his voice down. Easy for you to say, action man, you ain't the one living in this hellhole. The Viper's got eyes everywhere. Jason ignored DJ, his gaze unwavering on Manny. Did you see them collecting from Mrs. Rodriguez's bodega? Taking the money she barely makes selling candy to kids? Manny's eyes flickered. Betraying him, he swallowed hard. They were there. They took a lot. Did they threaten her? DJ pressed, his earlier sarcasm replaced with a sharp urgency. Manny nodded, almost imperceptibly. Said if she didn't pay, bad things would happen to her family. Jason sighed, a weariness etching lines around his eyes. We need to stop them. Manny, we can't let them keep doing this. DJ pulled out his phone. All right, I'm gonna need details. Time, number of guys, what kind of car? Manny finally seemed to crack, the fear in his eyes replaced by a flicker of something else, resentment, perhaps, or even hope. He started talking, the words tumbling out in a rush, painting a vivid picture of the disciples' brutal extortion racket. Later that afternoon, DJ, Maya, and Kai were huddled in DJ's cramped apartment, the air thick with the smell of ozone and soldering flux. DJ tapped furiously at his laptop, lines of code scrolling across the screen. All right, I've disabled the security. Cameras on Elm Street for a 10-block radius. Kai, you're up. Kai, nimble and quick, grinned. Time to play. He grabbed a spray can from his backpack. Their target. A known drug drop-off point for the disciples, a dilapidated warehouse near the docks. Using Manny's information, they knew a shipment was due to arrive around 6 as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the grimy streets. They were in position. Jason was a silent sentinel, watching from a rooftop overlooking the warehouse. DJ monitored the situation from his laptop in a nearby van, while Maya and Kai prepared. Their diversion, a black SUV, windows tinted, pulled up to the warehouse. Two hulking figures emerged, their faces grim as they started unloading crates from the back. Kai and Maya sprang into action. Kai unleashed a cacophony of sound, blasting a distorted loop of emergency sirens from a hidden speaker system. Maya, meanwhile, painted the warehouse door with a giant, fluorescent pink caricature of Viper, complete with a comically oversized snake wrapped around his neck. The letters loser were splashed across the image in bold, dripping paint. The two thugs froze, momentarily stunned. The siren wailed, bouncing off the surrounding buildings. People started peering out of windows. DJ, watching the feed from the van, grinned. Go time. He remotely triggered a series of small, pre-planted smoke bombs around the warehouse, engulfing the area in a thick, disorienting cloud. The thugs coughed and stumbled, frantically trying to assess the situation. By the time they regained their composure, police sirens were wailing in the distance, a signal Jason had arranged with a contact within the force. The thugs abandoned the crates and scrambled back into the SUV, speeding away into the gathering darkness. From his vantage point, Jason saw it all. He allowed himself a small, almost imperceptible smile. Meanwhile, in his opulent penthouse overlooking the city, Viper slammed his fist on the granite countertop, sending a glass of expensive whiskey crashing to the floor. Reports were flooding in. A drug shipment intercepted, his enforcers humiliated, his name ridiculed on the streets. "Find them!" he roared at his lieutenant, his face contorted with rage. "Find those kids and make them pay. Make them regret ever crossing me." His empire, built on fear and intimidation, was starting to crumble, and he knew it. The tide was turning, and Viper would do anything to stop it. The price of resistance. Viper slammed his fist on the dented hood of a stolen minivan, the metal groaning under the impact. His knuckles throbbed, mirroring the ache in his skull. He'd been running on fumes, fueled by anger and the bitter taste of defeat. Statham was proving to be more than a nuisance. He was a goddamn plague, and Maria Rodriguez. That woman was the source. She was the one patching up Statham's soldiers, whispering encouragement, teaching them how to fight back. That he'd seen her face in his nightmares. Serene mask of defiance. Find her. He snarled at the two disciples flanking him, their faces obscured by bandanas. Bring her to me. Alive. That I want her to see what happens to those who defy us. Maria was in the community center, demonstrating pressure points on DJ, who was wincing theatrically. "Easy, Maria. Easy. I bruise like a peach." Maria chuckled, her dark eyes crinkling at the corners. "Drama queen. You need to learn this, DJ. Not everyone has Statham's regenerative abilities." She pressed a specific point on his forearm. "Now, what happens if I apply pressure here?" DJ's face paled, though he tried to maintain his composure. Okay. I yield. Severe pain. Possible temporary paralysis. Makes me want to sing opera. Something like that. Suddenly, the doors burst open, and two disciples stormed in. Their faces grim. DJ instinctively shoved Maria behind him, his bravado momentarily forgotten. "What the hell is this?" The disciples didn't answer. Point one grabbed Maria by the arm. His grip like iron. She cried out. Struggling against him, DJ lunged, a wildcat's fury in his eyes. But the other disciple slammed him against the wall, knocking the air from his lungs. He crumpled to the floor, coughing, as they dragged Maria out. By the time Jason arrived, alerted by a frantic call from one of the younger kids who'd witnessed the abduction, the center was eerily silent. That he found DJ slumped against the wall, clutching his ribs, his face a mask of self-reproach. "Maria. They took her," DJ croaked, his voice hoarse. "They just took her." Jason knelt beside him, his face grim. He could feel the shift in the air, the palpable increase in the stakes. This wasn't just about territory anymore. This was personal. "Who took her? DJ? Tell me everything." DJ described the disciples, their clothes, their weapons, the chilling certainty in their eyes. That he recounted Maria's bravery, her futile struggle. As he spoke, Jason's jaw tightened. He remembered Maria's quiet strength, her unwavering belief in the possibility of change. He would not let Viper break her. "We need a plan," Jason said, his voice low and steady. "They'll be holding her somewhere they feel safe, somewhere they think we won't dare to go." "Viper's stronghold," DJ said, his eyes hardening. "The abandoned factory on the edge of the district. It's a fortress, and no one goes near that place." Jason stood, his gaze sweeping over the faces of the few youth who had gathered, their expressions a mixture of fear and determination. "Then that's exactly where we're going." He saw the doubt flickering in their eyes, the understanding of the danger they were facing. But he also saw something else, a spark of defiance, a refusal to be cowed. Maria had planted that seed, and now it was beginning to bloom. "DJ, you know the layout of the factory best. That I need you to map it out. Identify the weak points, the possible entrances." DJ nodded, pushing himself to his feet, ignoring the pain in his ribs. The bravado was back, sharper, more focused. "I can do that. I can also get us in. There's an old service tunnel the disciples don't even know about. I used to sneak in there to practice my beats without getting jumped." "Then let's get to work," Jason said, his voice echoing in the silent community center. The price of resistance had just been paid in blood and fear. Now, it was time to settle the debt. Justice for Harmony Heights. Tension tightened the air as Jason signaled. Point 3 flares, launched from surrounding rooftops, splashed the twilight sky with molten orange. Operation Justice for Harmony Heights had begun. DJ, perched on the fire escape of a facing building, tweaked his jury-rigged headset. "All right, Pops," he breathed into the comm, the usual levity stripped from his tone. "Sky's lit. Exits covered. We're green when you are." Jason, hunkered behind a decaying delivery truck with his older recruits, felt a fierce resolve solidify within him. Maria was trapped inside that factory. Viper would answer for his crimes. "Move out," he commanded, voice even and firm. The incursion was a study in calculated precision. Weeks of grueling training had forged them anew. These were no longer the frightened, scattered kids he'd initially encountered. They flowed through the urban labyrinth with intent, exploiting shadows and tight passages. Elena, exhibiting her knack for problem-solving, silenced the perimeter lights by expertly disabling the generator, shrouding the yard in absolute darkness. Miguel, displaying an unexpected talent for tech, effectively scrambled the disciples' comms, isolating them. The element of surprise proved devastating. Bursting through the main entrance, Jason and his team met only token resistance. The clash was brief and decisive. A whirlwind of motion, Jason neutralized his opponents with practiced ease. Emboldened by newfound courage and a sense of righteous fury, the teens fought with unexpected intensity. Inside, the factory floor resembled a fever dream, the stench of stale beer mingled with the sharp tang of fear. Klieg lights illuminated a makeshift ring where terrified residents were being forced into brutal combat. Before Jason could intervene, DJ's voice sliced through the comms. "Boss, Maria's located. East Side room, guarded by a couple of ogres." "On my way," Jason responded, his voice a low growl. He carved a path through the remaining gang members, leaving them moaning on the concrete. Reaching the designated room, he kicked the door off its hinges to find Maria bound to a chair. Her face bearing the marks of abuse, yet her spirit unbroken. Two mountainous figures blocked his access. Well, one of them leered, popping his knuckles. "Looks like our hero finally decided to grace us." Jason wasted no time on banter. He launched himself at the nearest goon, a rapid storm of fists and feet. The fight became a frenzied ballet of violence. Years of honed skill became evident as he methodically dismantled their defense. He swiftly freed Maria, his gaze conveying his profound relief. "Are you all right?" "I'm okay," she managed, her voice trembling slightly. "But Viper, he's expecting you." Jason nodded, jaw clenched. "Let's go." He found Viper in a makeshift office overlooking the factory floor. The gang leader lounged behind a desk, a sneer twisting his features. "So, you finally crawled out of the woodwork," Viper drawled, his voice laced with malice. "I was beginning to think you wouldn't show." "This ends now," Jason stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Viper erupted in a harsh, grating laugh. "You think you can stop me? I am Harmony Heights." He surged forward, a serrated blade glinting in his grip. Jason met his attack head-on. The two men exchanged savage blows, each strike echoing the weight of their conflicting ideals. Viper possessed brutish strength and relentless cruelty, but Jason was quicker, more focused. He evaded Viper's attacks, responding with precise strikes that targeted vulnerable areas. The brutal contest spilled out into the factory floor, the harsh spotlights framing their violent dance. Viper's fist connected with Jason's ribs, sending a jolt of searing pain through his side. Staggering back, Jason swiftly gathered himself. Recognizing an opening, he exploited it, landing a powerful kick to Viper's chest, sending him sprawling into a pile of discarded crates. Viper scrambled to his feet, his face a mask of twisted fury. He lunged once more, but Jason was prepared. He pivoted, deflecting Viper's advance, and unleashed a stunning blow to the side of his head. Viper collapsed. Unconscious. As Jason stood over the defeated gang leader, the distant wail of sirens pierced the air. The authorities had arrived. The ensuing days blurred into a frenzy of activity. The disciples were apprehended, their era of fear brought to a definitive close. The community center, scarred and vandalized, became the central hub for a collective renaissance. Volunteers swarmed the building, painting walls, restoring furniture, planting vibrant flowers. The sounds of construction blended with the joyous echoes of laughter, creating a powerful symphony of resurgence. Jason looked on, a deep sense of fulfillment washing through him. He watched DJ, lost in his music, assisting Elena in rewiring the sound system. He observed Maria, leading a community meeting, with unwavering confidence as twilight painted Harmony Heights in hues of gold. Jason understood he could not abandon this place. This was more than a community he had helped rescue. It was one he was now a part of. He had discovered a calling, a reason to remain. Justice for Harmony Heights had been exacted, yet the task was far from finished. He had to stay, To sustain their momentum, he had to stay and stand watch over their future.